Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Magi Ancestral Supplements. Magi Ancestral Supplements blends ancient Eastern wisdom with modern neuroscience for mental well-being and spiritual insights. Their formulations, based on the sacred plant Syrian rue, offer natural nootropics for longevity, mindfulness, and mental wellness. Experience the magic of their supplement Starred, Magi's meditation supplement providing 60 to 75 minutes of pure bliss where the mind allows you to be present in the here and now. Whether you're new to meditation or a seasoned practitioner, Starred is an ancestral catalyst to take you further on your journey. Visit www.ancestralmagi.com and use code STARD10, STARD10, for an exclusive 10% discount as a valued listener of the Gateways to Awakening podcast. Unlock the power of ancient wisdom with Magi Ancestral Supplements and transform your meditation practice and embrace a life of mindfulness and mental wellness. Hi, my name is Yasmin Tarehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, spirituality, and consciousness. Today's episode is with Ron Carson, known as Omani, the founder and CEO of Carson Group, a leading financial services company serving financial advisors and investors through its three businesses, Carson Wealth, Carson Coaching, and Carson Partners. And all three organizations are headquartered in Omaha, Nebraska. Ron is also a New York Times bestselling author, one of only 2 advisors ever inducted in the inaugural Barron's Hall of Fame, an award-winning entrepreneur, a dynamic keynote speaker, and a passionate philanthropist. And he's also become an influential voice in activating and accelerating social and environmental change, pursuing his mission to do the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. He and his wife, Jeannie, co-founded the Dreamweaver Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fulfilling end-of-life dreams for seniors with terminal illness. And more recently, Ron has advanced a global movement to feed the hungry through a partnership with No Hungry Children, provide access to clean water to those in need through a partnership with Charity Water, and support individuals suffering from mental health challenges. I could go on and on. I recently met Ron at, or I should say Omani, at an amazing conference in Nebraska, and was just so moved by what he put together. And so I was very excited to invite him to the show. So welcome to the show, Ron.
Oh, thanks for having me, Yasmin. I appreciate it. And, that you said conference, it's like when I hear conference, I think of something different than what we had. We intentionally call it a gathering because, as you well know, we really wanted people not just to show up and consume, but show up and be an active participant, in the 4-day event.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ron, to kick it off, what are some key strategies that you recommend for individuals who are looking to kind of achieve some new level of personal and professional growth? Like, where would you advise people to start today?
Yeah, back to you talked about the different businesses and that I had started. In 93, I actually started a consulting and coaching business for really business owners. And what I recommend for people is doing a blueprinting process. And our tagline around that was live your life by design, not by default. And I think so often, we're born, we have we're learning, we have all these, as my mother would say growing up, she'd say, Ronnie, you can absolutely positively do anything that you want. And then society starts telling us that we can't, and there's limitations. And I would still remember, and she's my biggest energy and confidence boost is she was always there, even when society would say, maybe you can't do this. She was already saying we can. And I just think we get this conditioning and really limiting beliefs around what we can do. And I love to say most of society then gets into this trance, this hypnotic rhythm of just on this unconscious journey to arrive at death safely, meaning that, they're letting their life live them versus them living their life. So I came up with this process called the blueprinting process, which I still use today. I continue to revisit, my blueprints. And and revise them when necessary, because I think we change as individuals. And I think we also ascend to higher degrees of purpose if we're on that kind of journey. So what I would say for everybody listening to this is, are you living your highest purpose? Are you excited about every single day? And some may be saying, I don't think so, but I'm not really sure what my purpose is. And this whole process of the blueprinting process, and I'm more than happy to provide a link and people can just have a copy of it, is it really zeroes in on, what do you love to do? What makes you happiest? What generates the most joy in your life? And I have 3 daughters, and I've told all of them growing up, because they all thought I would want them to come into our business. I said, I have one of them that actually now works in the business. I said, do what you love and plenty of money will show up. I think we just get stuck in a rut, and it's really, really hard to break out of that.
So interesting. I would love to hear more about this blueprint process. What are some of the steps that people should be thinking about when creating this blueprint, and also like trying to understand what their true north is, their North Star is on this journey of life? I mean, I'm just so curious because a lot of people, I think, don't have the time and space to necessarily ask these questions. So what would you say to like a busy individual, like how would they get started with this blueprint process?
Yeah. So the first step, Yasmin, in doing this is to get a pencil and not pen, because as you go through this process, I think sometimes it's really, really hard for us to be honest with ourselves. And ultimately, we know what's best for us, especially when we've got a true connection between our ego and our soul. But that takes a lot of work. We're so often, and I know for me personally, I never really, my soul was deep buried, beneath my ego showing up every day. And it really didn't have any kind of congruency between the two. And even this process that I used to teach, I found myself really not going through it deeply and authentically. And I can tell you these days that I do, and it's really removed a lot of friction in my life and changed my operating system from fear and scarcity to love and abundance. And let me just share with you a little bit of this process. The first thing that I ask people to do is identify what is most valuable to them, things I value most in life. And they go through and they make, it's spiritual fulfillment, it's love, relationships, is it compassion? What is it that you value most in life? And what are they, how much time are you actually spend doing them? I actually did on the business side of it, I had business entrepreneurs list how they spent their time. And this just related specifically to just their business. And we had a whole process where we looked at how much time do you spend in your day? And then we knew what the corresponding impact would be in their business. And there was no surprise that the highest performing businesses really did very few things. The owner, the entrepreneur, the founder, they did very few things, but they were things that they loved to do within their business, versus those that could never really break out to the next level. Were spending a lot of really, like they were taking dollar time to do penny tasks. Then, so once and I don't separate my business life from my personal life. To me, it's all just living. And so really getting an idea of what moves you, what excites you. Then we go into a process of, meaningful purpose, what causes you to jump out of bed in the morning and just be so excited for the day. And I think a lot of people think that once you get to a certain level of financial success, that, you just won't quite have that, the pep and the step for the day. And I can tell you, I've coached many very high performing, financially successful people that were really truly burnt out. They had all kinds of money. They weren't excited for the day because they didn't know how to get off the hedonistic treadmill that they were on. And so this is my whole theory, that if you're building and you're living your life out of this fear and scarcity operating model versus the love and abundance, then you're going to have a hard time really being excited for the day. And so finding something that's bigger than you is really around, what is my meaning? What is my purpose? And for me personally is, my unique gift is I can motivate others to live a more purpose-filled life. And I can also, my superpower, and I think this comes through in my meaningful purpose, is I can help other people see in themselves help them see in themselves what they couldn't see without someone guiding them through a process. Then we talk about activities. What are you most passionate about? What gives you the greatest feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment? For me, it's my family, it's helping others, it's outdoor anything. And then one of my favorite questions is, what causes are you willing to fight for? And I list mine as to raise a baseline of humanity. I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So many people live at the lower rung or two. They struggle every day because until you have your basic physiological needs taken care of, you really don't have a chance, to ascending up all the way to, it wasn't self-actualization. Actually, Maslow, many people don't know this, on the actualization pyramid, the very tip of it was total transcendence. And I'm actually launching a business called TTL, Total Transcendent Life. And I think that everybody wants to be there. They just don't know how to go about the process of actually getting there. And I think about, too, I was just out at Sundance and with a guy by the name of Josh Ticknell, who has written or produced over 20 movies around impact. And one of my favorites is Kiss the Ground. He has Common Ground actually coming out on Earth Day, which is April 22nd. But it's around, not only carbon sequestration, but there was an organization there before them called Abundance about food. Think of the number of kids. You mentioned, my wife and I are involved in Charity Water. We're involved in No Hungry Children. And the time we do this podcast, hundreds of kids under the age of 5 are going to die of starvation, and they're going to die of not having clean water. Yet we have an abundance. We have plenty, in the world. And one of the stats that came out of Sundance was that we waste more than double the food that it would take to feed every hungry person on the planet. And this planet has every bit of fresh water we've ever had, but there's not the human will to get it to the people that need it. So that comes back to what am I willing to fight for? I recognize not everybody wants to, build a business, but I think everybody wants to have their basic needs taken care of: food, water, shelter, education. And then it's up to them, how far up the pyramid they actually want to go.
So this is so inspiring and motivating, Omani. I love your joy and excitement and your perspective on life. And I'm definitely want to hear more about the TTL. And it's funny that you speak about Common Ground. I actually just went to the premiere in LA of Common Ground. It's a fantastic film for folks who are interested in that space. Like, definitely check it out. We're going to have Ryland, who's I guess he's like the founder of the nonprofit Kiss the Ground, on the show pretty soon. So very much in alignment with this world. So what about, for people that are dealing with really difficult times? Like, if folks are, let's say, kind of down in the dumps or having dark souls in the night, how would you counsel them or work with them at that stage?
I want to speak to this from my personal journey, Yasmin. Because I think it's relevant to this question, being a dark soul. I grew up as a farm kid, just north of Omaha. And my parents went broke when I was 17. I actually had a childhood of feast and famine all the time. My parents were both very poor when they were growing up, and my dad took a lot of risk, and was always starting over, it seems like, from scratch. But when I was 17, they lost everything during the farm crisis. And my dad said, "You're going to have to find something else to do, Ronnie. I can't even support my family." And scared the living daylights out of me, by the way. And so I was sitting in the library, and it said, "Top professions of the future, become a CFP, a certified financial planner." I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. By the way, a footnote to that, we used to go to the Napa Valley Wine Auction prior to COVID when they had it every year. And I was at a pre-party And a lady asked me where I was from, Nebraska. What do you do? I said, financial services. How'd you get into it? And I told her the story, and she goes, oh my God, I was at Money Magazine and I wrote that article. So you talk about, the butterfly effect, the kind of impact, serendipity that can take place in life is pretty powerful. But I was operating out of pure fear of what happened to my parents. And so I was on this mission to accumulate. I was never going to be broke. I was not going to have anything. Jenny and I both started out with absolutely nothing. And I thought, if I ever had X amount of dollars, I'll feel comfortable and I'll be happy. And I got that. I remember getting that number. I still have the dot matrix printer page that shows that number. And it was $100,000. If I ever had $100,000, I would not have to worry and I could start enjoying life. Well, we all know how that story went. It wasn't 100. And I thought, well, maybe 1,000,000. And then, I always had another number. And pretty soon I realized, which made me even more depressed, even a darker soul of the night, if you will, there was no number and it was a mirage because I had, I was working all the time. I was telling my family the reason I couldn't be home is because, I'm doing this for them, which was also not true. I knew it wasn't true on some level, but I didn't know what else to do or what to say. And I was really depressed and I was really sad. And then my mom died. And my mom was the one person in my life I knew no matter what I did, she would love me unconditionally. And so this one person was gone. I'd never been very close with my father. And I had worked with lots of different therapists and nothing was really working. So you asked me this question. I was referred to a gentleman by the name of Karosh. He today lives in Bend, Oregon. To this day, he's one of my closest friends. I call him my cosmic father because I consider I really have two. I have my birth date and I have my soul incarnation date when I really got to know my soul. And Karosh started working with me out in Venice, California at the times where he lived. And the agreement was that if I came out there and he worked with me, that I need to unplug from everything. I could do walks, I could get massages. We were going to have our work we were going to do. And after a week of meetings with Karosh, it was literally a Friday afternoon. I was getting ready to fly back to Omaha. And I said, man, Karosh, I feel better. And by the way, Karosh is the best on the planet. I probably sent him more than 200 people over the years, and he's helped everybody I've ever sent to him. He's truly has a unique ability. But at the end of that week-long session, I said, have you ever heard of psychedelics? And he kind of chuckled a little bit. I have. I go, do you think that's something I should consider? And he goes, I do. And I'm thinking, well, where has that been all week, man? It's like, I'm bringing it up and getting ready to go back to Omaha. And he goes, listen, the medicine will call you when it's ready for you. Because at this point, I felt good about living my life. And I had absolutely no spirituality because my parents were atheists. And so he arranged for me to work with a doctor who was underground in Topanga Canyon, which is LA. And I was terrified because I had never done more than, drink beer and wine and smoked a little weed in college, in high school. And, but this was, I'd done a paper when I was like a teenager on LSD, how it was just going to fry our minds, if we took it. And so it took me a few months. I went out and I had this session. It was a one-on-one session. It went from 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning until like 6, 7 o'clock at night. And it seismically moved my life. And I think I'm in a category with a lot of entrepreneurs who I know you could do breath work and you could do meditation and you could do all this other stuff, but I was never going to take the time to do it. If you didn't get my attention quick, you lost me forever. And so I had this incredible psilocybin, MDMA, bufo, all at the same day. I look back at that now and like, wow, that was a lot of stuff. But totally, this doctor was very well known in the Iboga space today. He doesn't do anything but Iboga. But he gave me a treat. I felt like I dropped into Alice in Wonderland. And all of a sudden, I had an outlook. I had an energy. I had spirituality. I went from not believing to believing in source. I've done further work on this and I have no question about source. And so back to your question, what do people do? Find a really good person that can guide you through the process. For me, it was psychedelics. For others, it may be something else, especially if you're patient. I did the program, 40 Years of Zen, which is a biofeedback week-long course. And we can get you to the same place. I did that for a week, and I got 1% of the benefit that I got in that one day in Topanga Canyon. And so I think a process of working with somebody, also having a really vibrant community around people that can support you, that can see you, that can feel you, that you have this unconditional love and appreciation for. And really, going back to the gathering and what we're trying to create, here in Nebraska and in Panama and Colorado and some other places is really about finding yourself and then finding your tribe and your community.
So, Ron, I love this so much. When you went through this experience of, working with medicine and having this experience in Topanga, I'm curious if you could walk us through the integration process, how long it took. Are you still integrating? And what did you learn ultimately from that experience that made you want to maybe shift your energy, time, and attention in this life?
So, first of all, answer your first question. I believe we're always in integration. I don't think we ever end. And it brought an awareness to me and to my soul. I would say that my ego and my soul used to fight each other, that I was so insecure that I had to let people know how successful I was. And it was just, man, I look back on it and go, my God, I don't even recognize that, that person anymore. So I was able to get rid of my insecurity around that, but I still have an awareness around it. And I always say it's a sneaky little motherfucker that, creeps up and can just show up. So that's the part of the continuous integration, but it allowed me to understand that there was something so much bigger at work here than my human existence on this planet. And that in itself brought a power and a love and an energy that I had never felt before in my life, and knew that even if I lost every single material thing I had, it really didn't matter. That I really came away with this belief that I carry today stronger than ever, that the worst case scenario for the planet, let's say it ends today, is pretty damn good. Matter of fact, it's better than damn good. It's amazing. Because I believe with all of my heart that we are here experiencing an infinite instances of ourself, and this is our playground. And we could argue that we're really messing up our playground. I think that's true. But can I share with you a dream I just had the other night?
Oh, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was second night of Sundance, and I don't even know why that was important, but I'll play into it here in just a second. I used to have these dreams when I was a kid that I would fall, and it was a sinking feeling. And then I wake up before I would hit. And I remember how awful those dreams were. And literally about a month ago, we were talking about dreams. And I have a Rasha machine, which is a scalar energy machine. And since I've been doing my Rasha sessions, I've been able to experience different levels of consciousness. I now can lucid dream. I can literally be asleep and be active, thinking about the day simultaneously, which is really powerful. I had never, ever experienced anything like that. But the more work I've done with the Rasha, I've just noticed my mind is able to experience totally different states. It used to be asleep or awake or twilight. And now, I feel like there's 52 flavors almost of consciousness. So had a great day with my daughter, went and saw these documentaries. I'm exhausted. I go to bed, and I'm a pilot, and I fly myself around. And I had this dream that I was flying through the air. It was a beautiful day. And all of a sudden the jet starts spinning towards the ground really fast. And I can see that I'm going to impact the ground. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to hurt. I wasn't in the old dreams. I used to be scary, but I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to have pain when I die. And this is not going to hurt because I'm going to hit so hard, so fast. It's not going to matter. And then all of a sudden in this dream, I go black, but I'm aware like in the past, I woke up, but here I am still in the dream going, ooh, that didn't hurt. And I'm still aware. And that was my soul and my consciousness. And, so then we're flying back to Omaha on Sunday, and I'm on the plane. I actually have two pilots now. I don't fly the plane anymore. And I'm back. I'm doing my meditation. I shut the shades. And then we're getting ready to land in Omaha. And so I put the shades up, take my mask off, and I look outside. Oh my God, I had this deja vu moment. It's like, this is exactly the setup right before we went into the spin. Nothing happened, obviously, because I'm here. But, that I think without my belief about where we go and source, that gives me the power, and I don't have the fear around it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm having a ball. I'm having fun on earth. I love this playground. I want to take care of this playground. But it's really changed my perspective on what life here means.
That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that dream. And also, what I'm gathering from you is that we shouldn't place too much importance on all the things that I think many of us do place importance on, and instead just enjoy our time here, create value, take care of our space. So I want to talk about this. I know I'm not going to call it a conference now, this gathering called Imaginor. And this was where we met. This was your gathering that you put together. And if you feel called, I'd love to share this gathering with this audience, and perhaps, what the inspiration was and what the call to action is for this gathering, which is kind of, it felt to me like a huge catalyst. So
yeah, and thank you. I love talking about this because it's where all my energy, or I'm going to say 85% of my energy is going today, is to work on this. And one of my journeys last year, it became crystal clear. I was already working towards this gathering. It started off as, I love going to Burning Man. And what if we could create a Burning Man in the Midwest that was a little easier, to get to? And then I had this aha moment in a Bufo journey. And the aha was that our world is not going to change from the leaders we have in place today. I mean, you think about, name them all, from Putin to Biden to Trump. No one trusts, they don't trust each other. They don't like each other. And how are we going to really get anything done for the benefit of all humanity? And this aha moment was, it's got to happen from the inside out. And I believe, and there'll be those that disagree with this. I just had this conversation yesterday with an indigenous leader. His name's Chief Phil Lane, who was actually at the gathering. I sit on a Four Worlds board that he started, organization. And I said, it's got to happen with the United States. As such a leader, we are a bit of a bully around the world, but we also have a lot of resources and we got a lot of military might. And until the U.S. is willing to really work with others, I think I just don't think it's going to happen. And so we're going to have to change from the inside out, meaning it's going to have to start happening organically with people that love and trust each other. And then those people can be in positions of power, and then we can take the planet back, because I don't think anybody would argue with me that the populace is not in control. We have way more in common than we have differences. Yet we have a very small number of extremists that are creating all the angst and all the hate and all the misappropriation of resources that actually occur today. So it's like, what if I could bring these people together? The first step is to create this gathering. And we did. We had 324 come to Nebraska for 4 days. And we had cool people like Rick Doblin and Lynn Twist is coming this year. Deepak Chopra is coming this year. It's like name brands. But we also had people with a lot of enormous wealth and resources who are also believers that this approach needs to be different than what we're doing today. And we also have other people from around the world that just everybody brought a unique thing to the gathering. And it was a start of how do we bring more and more people and awareness. And by the way, we raised 1.1 million for some great charities around mental wellness, water and food. But the bigger plan here is to create a movement. And we have attractive ground that's just south of that, you're on about 400 acres there. We have 2,000 acres. I want to build a community. I want to build a healing center. I want to convert all of our farming into sustainable organic farming. And I want to build this really powerful community where people could come and stay a day or a lifetime and really do it through an energy exchange. And then have some common principles. Think of Burning Man principles plus that all the different communities, a lot of these communities around the world. And as I'm thinking about these communities emerging, I see that, ego is going to get in the way because, I still got my ego and I've got my way of doing things. And there's a group, there's a handful of groups that I'm aware of that I love and adore. And some of them were actually at the gathering. They've got their way of doing it, but that's okay. That's like a 10% of the offering in the experience. But what if we could agree on all these common principles and move around among these communities and spaces, and then also start to network together to bring the power back to the people, and then to have this change inside out. And ultimately, this 2,000 acre would be all these communities coming together once a year and creating a Burning Man just around change, a Burning Man around, a Burning Man of Nebraska, a Burning Man of other places, of doing what humanity wants, not what a very, very few people that are operating under fear and scarcity and hate and anger, which is created from that fear and scarcity, in order to live in a world that we want, not the world that we have today.
Beautiful. And Ron, I also want to just tell the audience that this gathering included music. I mean, really prolific musicians and workshops and conversations that like anywhere from, conversations with indigenous communities to charity water. And so I want to talk a little bit about the organizations that you're supporting, like No Hungry Children and Charity Water, and why you decided to focus your efforts on these charities and any others in your kind of portfolio.
Yeah. So the food and the water thing goes back to the Maslow's hierarchy. I mean, I can't think of anything that we need as humans more than just, food and water. And it just breaks my heart to see people dying every day because they don't have access to this. Mental wellness is a big piece for my family. As my mom was manic depressive, I got to see that my entire life, along with the she had Alzheimer's, when she died. And then Dreamweaver, which you talked about, was also, this is mental wellness for the elderly. There's an enormous number of people out there that are dying silently without anybody to love them or care about them. And so those are really the initial charities and causes that we wanted to spotlight. And we're going to add more, as we go. But, Scott Harrison, I think who started Charity Water, just got the humanitarian award from the Dr. Luther King Foundation recently. And, there's some really, really good work, that's being done there, but it's still, it's a drop in the bucket versus the need, but we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I read that book, Charity Water, and was so moved by what he put together, and just incredible work for those who want to learn more about Charity Water. Are there any other organizations that you're tracking beyond food and water at this point? Like, I think that there are some was it regenerative agriculture or farming?
Yeah. So this is probably, the thing I'm most excited about that I can directly impact. And so Josh and Rebecca Tickle, who produced this movie, their goal is to convert 100 million acres into regenerative farming, which means we're going to be able to absorb all the CO2 emissions that we have and actually get to neutral. It's the only way, according to the science, that we can get there. We actually are the largest farmers in eastern Nebraska to today, and all of our farms have been monocrop. And I was also buying into really it's a lie around Roundup, which is glyphosate. I think I'm saying that right. which causes cancer. It's terrible for us. And I was being told as a farmer, as recent as even 4 or 5 years ago, some of the mainstream media, that if we don't have these cancer-inducing chemicals on our food, then we're not going to raise enough food and millions of people are going to die. And which is not true, because when you start feeding and growing organic food that is enriched by the soil and the processes that can happen, it's so much more full of nutrients and energy that we don't need nearly as much food. So it's not true. Number two, as Rebecca said last week, my youngest daughter and I were having breakfast, and she said, "There's an asteroid that's going to hit." Can you imagine if we had an asteroid right now, Yasmin, that we knew in next year was going to end life on this planet? Do you think we'd be worrying about anything but how to avert that? But we have the equivalent coming right at us. And that is, no one's really getting too serious. Even the latest, COP was at 28. There's all these promises, but there's no really action, but it's not enough. And so this farming, they want to convert 100 million acres, which will be the tipping point to sequestering all this carbon. And by the way, the numbers are incredible. Like, if you make the move, these farmers right now, of every dollar spent that they generate, they only get to keep about 8%, because of the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Everybody else is taking all the money from the farmer. So I want to help our farmers claw back the economics and give a great gift to humanity in being able to become carbon neutral and start having, our weather be more normal. I'm sitting here in Nebraska. We had 50 below wind chills 10 days ago. And next week is going to be 50. Today it's like almost 40 degrees. Like, I'm having crazy swings in weather right here in the middle of I call it the center of the universe, Omaha, that I've never seen my entire life. And we need to get really serious about that. So that's a cause that is immediate, but also want to treat the symptom, on the Maslow with food, water, and mental wellness. But let's also put some energy and effort into the cause of it. Just like CO2 is, what can we do to change? Because we have plenty for everybody. By the way, Lynn Twist is a friend of mine. She has a great book called Omani. She started Pachamama Alliance. She was also a part of the Hunger Project. I strongly recommend her book. But she's like, we got enough, and we've had enough for everybody since the 70s, really the mid to later 70s. So it's a travesty that people are suffering today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had Lynn Twist on the show, and definitely recommend her book, Soul of Money. It was one thing I remember from that book that stayed with me for so long, which is like, you can tell a lot about a person by just like looking at their bank account statement. Like, what are they spending money on? What are they prioritizing? And just kind of tells you what the values and priorities are. So it's even a good first step for folks who want to see like where their own values are first. So Ron, I want to talk a little bit about how, businesses, I think right now are sort of struggling to figure out purpose and profit, and how to align their purpose and profit to embrace these principles of conscious capitalism. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on this, especially when people have to start making very difficult decisions when it comes to profit.
Yeah, I'm a newer convert to conscious. I mean, I was practicing it unintentionally. I didn't know what it was, but the basic tenets of conscious capitalism, which was really a movement started by John Mackey, who started Whole Foods, and there's a few other co-founders of the movement, but he's probably the best known. The belief here is that you can go. First of all, capitalist in its purest form, Yasmin, is so vicious. I mean, because what it does is it allocates resources to the most efficient providers of those resources. And so pure capitalism just left unchecked means that very, very few people, and we're headed in that direction, by the way, very few people are going to have control of everything on the planet. over time. And so a lot of people think capitalism is bad. And if you go back and look at the standard of living of humanity around the world for thousands of years, it was pretty much a flat line until capitalism came about. And it was founded, at least according to them, in Scotland. And it dramatically improved because we had people competing and providing better goods and services and different and better ways of doing things. And we had a competition with it. And all of a sudden it was the survival of the fittest, and companies raised everybody's standard of living. But today, it's because it's not been checked. Things are becoming way too concentrated. There's way too big of separation. And believe me, I'm a capitalist, and I believe if I'm willing to work hard, and if I want to ascend above safety and physiological needs on Maslow, I should have the right to do so. But not everybody wants that. I think everybody has a basic right to some basic needs being provided by everyone on this planet. And so the core tenets of conscious capitalism is there's really three constituents that you're serving. Yes, you want to make a profit because you want your business to stay in business. You want to be able to reinvest back into the business. But equal to that, there's really three partners. And then there's your internal stakeholders. We don't call them staff here at Carson. We call them internal stakeholders. They need to be taken care of. And then the people you're serving, that you're providing a product or a service to. And there's not one of those that is more important than the other. All three of them in a symbiotic form really support each other in a healthy way. Where it gets out of balance is when at all costs, we're trying to maximize profits. And I believe that there's so much of where we're at today that's what it's all about, is how much money can we make at the expense of everybody else. And so I believe at Carson, what has allowed us to be successful over the years is we've been active parts of our community. So we give back to our community, our partners, our internal stakeholders. And yes, we've made a responsible profit, but then we take that money and also reinvest it back into the causes that are important to us. It's not about hoarding. Ginny and I are leaving most of our money to our charitable foundation, which are going to continue to support the work we're doing up at our Healing Ranch and some of our other places around the country in order to affect this change. But I do believe that pure capitalism, most people are wired. We got to grow. We got to grow at this every year at the expense of everything else. Our planet can't take it, and our planet doesn't need it. We really need to have a more balanced approach.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, as we're coming to time, I have a couple more questions, Ron. Or Omani. I always keep calling you Ron. Why do you think these subjects are so important, and especially right now? I'm curious if even moving through this COVID experience, if that's changed your opinion or maybe accelerated your perspective on this work.
So to begin with, Yasmin, I could identify people that were like me and that I knew were suffering but didn't know how to make the shift, the orbital shift in their life. And so I have worked with quite a few of those business entrepreneurs, which I love because they went like me. They went from not really loving their life, but having lots of resources to loving their life, saying, how can I be a part of the solution? But then going even a little deeper, I'm realizing that we have an epidemic of people that have anxiety and don't feel okay, and they feel lost, and they don't really trust. And I personally believe anxiety, just general anxiety of living day to day, as high as it's ever been. And it can't get better until we, as a species, as humanity, says, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. It's time to take our planet back. It's time to take care of each other and live in this love and abundance world that we used to have, that the indigenous cultures from all over the world live that way. One of my favorite movies ever is the Avatar movies and on the water world, and it's I would love to go back and live that way. I mean, some people say that's probably a little extreme, but I grew up on a farm. I've got a place just north of here that if shit hits the fan, I got food, water, That's how I would live. And I'd have my community, my tribe come, and we would live up there together. And, barring nuclear fallout, we're all going to die, or, someone coming after us for all of our resources. I think that would be such an awesome place and way to live. And that's the kind of community I'm planning on building, and living and being a part of, and helping people replace, part of the challenge when doing a journey is you come out, you go back to the work, back to your life, and all of a sudden, the place you were starts to fade really quickly, because most people aren't part of that. They're part of the anxiety causing activity, the news and vibration that's going on. But we can replace the pieces, the players, and the people with the new world we want. So over time, eventually, we create the exact world we want to live in. And that's what my call to action is. My mission is my meaningful purpose is to leave the world a better place by helping my tribe live a freer, more impactful life. And my mantra for them is greater freedom for greater impact. When you're free to be you and to express yourself and to really be and observe, is really a powerful way to get rid of the anxiety and to live your purpose-filled life.
Love that. That's amazing. I love this idea of living in community, right? Like, I think that's something we've lost in this like kind of last generation that's kind of coming back online, but we need each other. We need this collaboration. We're so integrated with the earth and with each other that I think we've sort of over-indexed on, self-actualization and just focusing on self. And so I love your perspective. It's really wonderful. And what sort of things, looking back, Omani, have surprised you the most on this journey that you've been on?
Without a doubt, the biggest surprise was this world existed, and I never knew it existed. This world of spirituality. I again was raised with no belief in anything beyond being here on this planet. And so having that knowledge and knowing, after, I would say my original journeys, I had I believe there was something. And then after my Bufo work, and Bufo is my absolute favorite medicine to work with, is I had an absolute knowing for sure. And I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think it was possible not to be afraid of death. One of the speakers at the gathering was Chris Bosch, he's got several books out there on his LSD experiences. And he said, I had a hard time wanting to live after knowing what I know. And he said, it took me a decade, and he hasn't done psychedelic journey, maybe for going on 20 years. It might be 15 or 18 years, doesn't matter. He said, once you know, and there's no need, to go back. And it's really changed his life. And I would say that's been it for me. The biggest surprise is this whole other beautiful world existed. And I feel like when I was a kid growing up, Christmas Eve was my favorite holiday. My sister and I would lay awake in bed together until we could get up, because after Santa Claus came, I feel like a 9-year-old on Christmas Eve pretty much every day. And I want to bring that sort of feeling to as many humans as possible.
I love that. Amazing, Omani. I could feel that through the mic, just the amount of joy that you have. So what do you want to tell our listeners kind of about their health, wellness, well-being as a main takeaway or a call to action? Like, what do you want people to think about right now or do right now?
Yeah, I would like to ask, the call to action is to carve out some time for yourself to just be and really reflect on. I'm going to come back to how I opened this with the blueprinting process, whether it's ours or one. And part of this is writing your eulogy too. I coach people to go to the end, write your obituary and your eulogy of today. And then, are you living the life consistent with the way you want to be remembered? And if the answer is no, what needs to happen? I'm a big believer going, as Covey said, go to the end and work backwards. Today is truly the first day of the rest of our life. Let's break out of the conventional prison of conventional way of thinking, the prison of thinking, and not defend what you think you know, but embrace the unknown. Be curious, be open-minded, commit to, fun and play. That's one of the core tenets of our TTL is let's have more fun. Let's play. Ultimately, why do we work every day if we can't laugh and we can't enjoy? And if that's not mostly present in your life, ask yourself, am I willing to make a change to try to take care of myself mentally, physically, and spiritually? And how can I start that process? It's getting in the right community, connecting with the right people, listening to, podcasts like this will give you plenty of resources. And it's the most beautiful, caring, loving community I've ever been part of. And quite frankly, Yasmin, I have a hard time being around people anymore because it's all surface level conversations. I want to be with my tribe. I want to talk about real and meaningful things.
Mm. Amen. Amen to that. So are there any resources that you can point folks to in order to learn more about you, or perhaps maybe you want to drop some of the charity organizations that you're a part of for people to go check out and donate? Where do you want to direct people to?
Charity Water, No Hungry Children, Dreamweaver are all three that are near and dear to my heart. The Gathering, actually, I'd love to plug the Gathering where tickets are going to go on. We say tickets; it's a donation to the cause on February 2nd, and I think we're going to cap it at $350 this year. The lineup is incredible. Even the music lineup you experience, I think we've gone to another level. We've got a lot of commitments from some really impactful speakers, but this is a place to find your community. And I think this is really cool. There's like a bunch of romantic connections. And I love a lot of people came that just heard they should come. We had attorneys come from LA. We had a movie producer come from LA. Another attorney came from New York who just heard about it, didn't know anybody, and just came to Nebraska, which I thought was super cool. The dates will be October 3rd through the 7th. And we will have a ton of resources, and there's a lot of people that you will be able to meet there that will truly put you on the path to transform your life and help you live a life of total transcendence.
Amazing, amazing. Yes, come to Imaginor. It's an incredible, incredible gathering. And just also to let you know, Omani, we've had Neil Markey on the show. We've had Rick Doblin on the show. We've had Finian on the show. It all came from this gathering. So it was incredible for me too, and made a lot of new, rich friendships from the gathering. So thank you for putting that together. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Omani. I could talk to you for hours. You are such a delight and so inspirational, and may all of us have the level of joy that you bring to the table in life. I really appreciate who you are in this world. So thank you for everything.
Yeah, and thank you, Yasmin. You have such a beautiful way and a beautiful energy, and it's been a real joy to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Omani. Thank you. And for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we dropped in with Ron Carson, Omani, and you could tune into Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Thanks again. What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run a 5-week program at the Inner Knowing School for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals, a number of practical tools and frameworks for creating an intuition practice and for self-mastery. You can find more at theinnerknowingschool.com. I have a master's certification in intuition medicine, and I've condensed 10 plus years of experience and research navigating how to harness your energy and intuition in an easy to access live curated course. Now, as someone who's helped countless creatives, entrepreneurs, and many who are just plain stuck, open doors of possibility they never thought existed, I've seen this strategy transform people's inner states and external reality. And the best part is that you'll skyrocket your output and unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly, live to overcome your limiting beliefs and show you how to manage your energy instead of your time. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition based on some of the top tools and frameworks that I've developed, and you'll get access to guided meditations and visualizations not available anywhere else. This method is so effective that even if you don't have that much time, or if you think that you might not be ready, this will work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can check out what past clients had to say about the program. Wishing you all many blessings ahead.